So, is this episode 7 now?
Episode 7. Episode 7.
Yeah.
Here we are. Another day, March 12th. Coronavirus still free. We have not been touched by it. So,
It's still free. What do you mean? It's only just starting, Charles. It's like,
exactly. No, I already came to a conclusion that we're all going to be infected. So,
well, I
it is
didn't
what it is.
someone, some virologists or people are now saying 40 to 60% of the world population will be affected at some point. So, I don't
Imagine.
know.
Yeah, sure.
Some others are saying 60 to 70% of Germany. I don't know. Like nobody actually knows. I think, but it will be a large portion of the world for sure.
For myself, though, and also people I know, from a tourism standpoint, not looking good.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep, you guys are going to get hurt. I mean, the travel industry, I've already read multiple articles about saying like the airline industry is being affected hardcore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think a few airlines are even warning of having a bad year of like, hey, we're going to be making a loss this year, guys.
Yeah.
They're already predicting things like that. So, yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Cover it
And I'm
for sure.
also I'm also thinking though with the governments, like the governments this, like how it's sort of like government versus the people. I think now the government's really gonna have to sort of like side with the people, especially business owners and large businesses, because like they might have to do like a tax for a year or two tax for years or something on businesses, to like help out so they can survive what's gonna happen. Like sales dropping, all types of things. Like you can't expect the same money coming out of these businesses as you used to, right? From the taxing side. So it's going to be like, especially for this country, because this country has like heavy taxes, right, on imports
Yeah.
and everything like that. So what are you going to do? You're just going to like, it's going to get wild, and especially once those outbreaks start happening. Now they're shutting down borders, shutting down countries. USA this Friday can't take in, is it, I think, in and out from Europe. They're not taking anyone from Europe.
Yeah. Italy is in complete shutdown, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Like I think it's only a matter of time before it happens in other countries. I think I was talking to somebody this morning, and they predicted that the French president would be shutting down France at the end of the day today.
At the end of the day
I honestly
today.
think it's a good idea because the problem is overwhelming the healthcare system. So as long as you reduce the amount of cases at the same time, that's how you reduce deaths, right? Because I don't think like I'm not personally that concerned of getting it. Like I prefer obviously not to, but I'm
Yeah.
of an age where it's very unlikely to cause death for me personally. But a lot of the older people or people with low immune systems and so on and so forth, they have a much higher chance. You know what I'm saying? So for everybody's benefit, it makes sense to spread it out and to limit contact with other people, to limit the spread of the virus, and so on and so forth. I don't know if you read the article I sent you today, but he compared a lot of numbers and he compared it to SARS and he compared how a lot of the Asian countries are handling it versus a lot of the Western countries, and how the Asian countries have been able to so far, depending if the numbers are real or not, um, contain it as opposed to Western countries that are having trouble because they're not being as quick about it. They're not putting people on lockdown fast enough, so on and so forth.
Everyone's just sort of just taking it chill, because even myself, I thought it was a bit like, I still think, I got my theories behind everything, but it is having an effect on like economy. That's for sure,
Oh,
right?
100%. I didn't think it would be this big and this quick, but I mean that's the thing with these types of viruses. They grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And it has impacts that are crazy. I mean, I was surprised. I usually look at the cryptocurrency market a few times a day because
Yep.
that's my stocks, whatever. Um, and I noticed there was a 30% drop, and it's a lot of currencies are down 30, 40%.
30%. 30% is crazy.
Bitcoin apparently dropped 20% in an hour. But that's the thing, crypto is more volatile.
Yeah.
And that's why it's much better for day trading if you're into things like that because of the volatility. But yeah, that is even in the crypto world a little bit crazy in terms of like a 30% drop within like a day or something like that. I'm not
It's also
concerned. I think
not.
they will all bounce back, and I honestly
Yeah.
think that if you have some money to invest, right now is a really good time. And not just right now. Like if you have, let's say, 100K to invest, don't invest that 100K now. Just
Yeah.
maybe take 5K. Maybe take 7K. Invest a little bit, see how it goes, and then invest a little bit. It's about investing in small chunks and not all in one big piece. But I'm not talking about just the crypto market. I'm talking about the stock market and everything that's on sale, basically. I think
Yeah.
it's going
Though
to keep on dropping, at least most markets.
if we look at it from a standpoint of the year, though, with like Bitcoin, let's just say, it's not lower than when the year started, or than when the
Um,
year not. I mean, not the 2020 January, but I'm talking about like a year's period, right? So back to March, whatever day we are, March 12th, 2019. It's not lower than
yeah,
that
yeah,
period,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's
That's
still
true.
relatively, like, I'm going to show this image right here. It's still
Yeah, and
relatively
that's
like,
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. People focus too much on the short term, and this was what
exactly.
we've talked about this many times now.
Yeah.
um, but if you look at the long period, and if you would have held Bitcoin for years on end, you'd still be up quite a bit. You know,
Yeah.
so so people really need to stop panicking, and life isn't a race; it's a marathon, guys.
It is a marathon. And that's the thing, is that people just freak out. Like, and that's the same thing with this coronavirus. People, like, what do you think, the world's going to end tonight or tomorrow? Like, we just got to figure this out, take our time. Obviously, we got to act, right? So there's no doubt about that. But yeah, and I was showing the image in pesos. That's why people were like, "What do you mean Bitcoin's $300,000 but 1,000 pesos?" That's what I was
Yeah,
showing. So
I saw the DOP there. I was like,
yeah, now just in case,
312,000? Damn, that's actually a lot for Bitcoin in
exactly.
pesos.
Oh yeah, you'd get a lot of rice, beans, and chicken for that price. I'll tell you that.
That's oh man, that's a lot of money for yeah, for sure.
Well, for this country, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going for.
But in any case, so that, at least we got that out of the way. The silver lining is that we're all going to get it probably, and we'll probably survive. Us, you know, and it's just about keeping your immune system up. Just who knows what happens, right? If it's an advanced flu or advanced cold or whatever, that's even the same thing,
That's
depending on
basically
where
what
you're
it
at.
is. I mean, it's
Yeah,
basically an advanced respiratory flu, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines. And it's similar to previous flus that have happened, like the SARS, and it's been compared to that a few times.
yeah. And with that being said, that sort of ties into to show how connected the world is, right? Like, people all around the world are just, right now we have people in Chile that we know that are like, I just got a message this morning. One of my friends that I was at a party with just got diagnosed, supposedly, like, he's in quarantine for coronavirus, and they were just with
Well,
him a couple days ago.
now he has to go to quarantine. If he was at a party with the dude, you know what I mean?
Exactly, right? So this is like a get together, sorry, but it's like, this is it's affecting people that even we know now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I said, 40 to
So
60%. Most that's what people,
so
or one of the numbers that I was reading recently.
yeah,
But
but
like
if
at the end
40
of the
if
day,
40 to 60% gets it, then everyone gets it, right? Because how are you gonna, what, at the 60% they're just gonna figure out how to stop it?
I don't think that's the thing. If people act fast, and the thing is about distancing yourself because it spreads to the air, as you said, but only up to 2 meters. So as long as you keep distance from people, wash your hands because apparently the bacteria can be on metal and on ceramics for hours and days at a time. Just what
Exactly,
if
that's
you're
what
out and about, touch money and stuff, have a disinfectant thing in there. Whatever. Wash your hands. Wash your hands, guys. Yesterday, I was flying back from the Canary Islands. I landed. I went we were at the baggage area. I needed to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I was washing my hands with soap, and I kind of looked over just to see if people were doing the same thing. I saw two guys wash their hands with water and walk out and touch the doorknob on the way out. I'm like,
Yeah,
are you
for sure.
guys not paying attention? Wash your hands. You know, be you're not supposed to be paranoid about it. You're not supposed to be like in panic, but be smart about it. Wash your
Sure.
hands properly with soap,
Just take some
and
precautions.
just take some precautions, especially in Europe, in Germany, which is growing in cases tremendously, exponentially. Just be cautious, especially if you're in areas where it's more likely to happen. Just wash your hands, keep distance from people. That's all you got to do. You know, maybe if you can work from home, that's do those things, you'll be fine. You know, if you get it,
And
you get it.
you
Okay.
get it, exactly. And that being said, though, so like getting into a bit of marketing, is that how do you see it for like businesses right now? Should they be spending money? Should they not be spending money? On like, is there a point? Like, are the shopping trends changing? Is anything changing in that aspect? Like, how's that looking?
I've been reading in some groups that people are seeing lower conversion rates.
Yeah,
And I've also been hearing from other people as well that they're just, that's the thing. Some people say they do, and others are like, nah, everything is fine. So I think it depends on the type of industry you're in,
sure.
and what phase that market is. Because I think if you're trying to sell survival stuff, then I think your conversion rates are even better. But if you're selling stuff that might not even seem relevant right now because people are in panic, I think that's just the case of or the facts.
Yeah,
So I think they're just not focused on buying on e-commerce stuff or things like that, things that might not seem necessary. Because a lot of people are like in the protect yourself mentality, I think, at the moment.
yeah.
Um, so I think it is impacting like e-commerce and quite a few industries. I mean, you see it in the stock market. We were talking about it
Yeah,
at
you
the
see it in the
beginning of the
stock
call.
market, but that's what I'm wondering is like, should people like ourselves that are helping out businesses do marketing, should it be like, hey, we should just take it back a notch for a month, 2 months, see what happens, and then start maybe re-entering? Like, should you continue? Should you just stop your campaign? Should you lower your campaigns? Like, what should be the correct move? What would be the correct
Again,
move?
I'll go back to my standard answers, which is it depends.
Yeah,
If you see your conversion rates taking a hard hit, then reassess. Turn down the campaigns, maybe not turn them off. See how that impacts things, um,
yeah,
and then move on from there. If you see your conversion rates going up, well, then start spending more money. Um,
sure.
but I mean, I wouldn't say stop completely because you still want to be top of mind in some cases. You can reduce your cold traffic campaigns and improve or spend some more money on your remarketing campaigns to build up the brand aspect of things a little bit. But generally, I wouldn't say turn on marketing completely off. That's usually not a good idea.
And it goes back to what you always say is like the what is it, ATB? Always be testing.
ABT,
ABT.
always be
Oh yeah, I
always
don't
be
know why I said
testing.
ATB. I was thinking something else.
Yeah,
ABT.
you always have to be testing. You always have to be testing basically everything. And people always think that like, oh, you always have to be testing just the ads. It's like, no, the ads are important metric or important lever that you have, especially with a lot of these universal campaigns. Like on Google for universal app campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah,
One of the only levers that you have is the ad. So you definitely always got to be testing that, but always be testing other things. Like for example, on the mobile world, like your app icon, the maybe even the name changing something towards the end, the description, so on and so forth, to see what converts the best. The same thing on the web side of things, different landing pages, different messaging or different copywriting, different angles, different hooks. Um, Maybe change different videos on the landing pages, image versus video. You gotta test everything. And you also sometimes have to take a step back because sometimes if you're always testing, you're always testing the same thing, but slightly
yeah,
different. So what I've seen in the past, one of the companies I worked at is they would be testing different landing pages, but they would all be so similar to each other that they would only have marginal improvements. But what
Sure.
you have to also be trying is trying more radical things if you want to have radical improvements. If you're already doing really, really well, then you can only see smaller improvements. But if you're not trying things differently enough to each other, then in my opinion, it's not really a test. It's more of like a mini test. You want to be trying bigger differences if you want to have bigger changes in results.
Potential.
And
Yeah, bigger
yeah, yeah,
potential
yeah.
results.
And I mean sometimes that may work in the negative where you might lose 20% conversion rate or something like that. But on the other hand, that gives you the chance to increase by 20% instead of the 2 or 3%. If you just test radically different looking landing pages or radically different looking icons, or radically different messaging, and things like that.
That's the thing. You almost need like a few campaigns, and then in those campaigns you have ABC, right?
Yeah.
So that like you're not just doing A, B, C, D, E. If you're doing the whole alphabet under one campaign. Like you sort of want to see where it is, and then maybe you cut out one campaign completely, and then you work on two more, and then you sort of work like this instead of just what you're saying right there, which is doing one campaign and 500 micro versions of that same campaign,
Yeah, but that's
sort
not
of
what I mean. What I
limits.
mean, what I mean is even doing A and B, but A and B being so similar to each other that if you had them next to each other, there would be no there. You couldn't really
Yeah,
tell
no
tell
real
that much
difference.
of a
Yeah,
difference. Like, yeah, if you really
very
looked at
different.
it, you're like, okay, well, yeah, okay, this one has a different background image, and this one
Yeah,
has like you know different like banners on the back, whatever. But like they're both super pink or something, or super green,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like the
yeah.
color scheme is the same. So you really want to try and like do different, like one with a green background, one with an orange background. Like completely different,
Yeah.
contrasting to see really which one has a bigger effect. And I know I'm using colors for this. You don't necessarily want to have an orange background for your website, maybe, but that's just an example that I'm trying to come across,
No, and I get what you're
bring
saying there,
across.
and that maybe works out if you have a campaign that's like really doing well, and you're just trying to optimize it further,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. But if
But
you
if you're
if you
starting
see,
out, then you want to
yeah,
be a bit more broad.
yeah. Or if you see that your numbers are really not looking that great, but you're running a large amount of traffic, but you think you can improve significantly, then split a tiny portion of that traffic off, and test radical differences, um,
Yeah,
and see if you can improve something quicker. And if you see something work on a smaller scale, attribute more traffic to it. And then if it continues working more and more until you finally phase out the non or the worst performing one. That's basically how it should be done, in my opinion.
no, it makes sense that way. It's more of a, it still has like a logic behind it, right? So it's just like an approach to sort of get results quicker, right?
Yeah,
Because potential
exactly.
results. But of course, that comes with the other, what you're saying, the downside that you might have a little bit of more losses sooner, but you also have
Yeah,
the chance of getting more results sooner.
I'm a big proponent of high risk, high reward.
Yeah,
On the other hand, some people aren't, and then that's fine. Then just don't do an A/B test like 50-50% traffic. Maybe do like an A/B test in the terms of like, I don't know, 95.5% of traffic. So you drive 95% of traffic to the landing page that is performing or whatever,
yeah,
or the icon or the description or whatever, or the ad, doesn't matter, and then only allocate 5% to the other one and see how it performs. That's what I was trying to say before. But ABT, always be testing, comes back to it never, ever, ever stops. Even if you think you
oh
have a
no,
really great performing whatever, I'm
yeah,
sure that if you changed your headline and made it much, much better, written by the top copywriter in the world or whatever, then it'll perform better,
yeah.
most likely. So
That's the part, is that
always,
that's
always be testing.
yeah, always be testing ABT. And that's the thing, is that you don't want to rest on your laurels, right? You like, you don't, even right now, with the times are changing, like with the coronavirus, this is going to affect people's strategy. People might get creative. Like I was just thinking while you're talking, I was like, what if Netflix did something where they just gave 2 months free Netflix or 3 months free, right? or they change their 1 month free campaign as more like a, hey guys, since you're staying in your house, here's a free, like they sort of change the angle on their free membership, that 1 month that they give you for free. Like,
it's
due to the virus, enjoy your stay in.
it's funny
Netflix
you
and
say
chill.
that because on the call I was this morning, that was actually the topic about how to change the campaigns to target the people that are in lockdown, targeting them like, hey,
Exactly.
are you bored being in lockdown? Check this out.
Exactly. But that's what it
Use
should be.
this. Yeah, exactly. And so
You're
I
on time.
think in some industries it even makes sense to advertise more during during the coronavirus, especially if it's some sort of entertainment product like mobile games. 100%.
Yeah.
People are going to be bored out of their minds, especially if they have nowhere to go, nothing to do. They're gonna be so bored staying in their apartments. It's winter time in Europe, you know?
Well, I guess
People
it's
are going
sort
to
of
be
the
in their
perfect time to
apartments.
also stay in.
Yeah, I suppose.
So either
But
way,
people
they're
are going
getting
to be
used to it.
so bored.
Yeah.
So right now is for some industries, it's actually a good time to start marketing.
No, they're going to
As
be
soon as
looking to
people,
consume content. They're going to be looking to
yeah,
play, like to be entertained.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe not, in the first few days, but as the lockdown continues, wherever it is, then they'll start getting bored. People will start getting really bored,
Yeah.
and I think entertainment industry will actually benefit from it.
I'm glad I have like maybe 80 books that I have to finish. So I just, if the lockdown does happen, then I guess I will get around to
I
finishing
I
them a
have a
lot
f-
sooner than planned.
I have a 400 Mbit connection. I think I'll be
You'll be
packed
all
full
right.
with entertainment.
No, so then you're thinking though, like, all right, so now with what's sort of what we spoke about with like what's happening, coronavirus, sort of like testing campaigns, what about like the different marketing ways you can approach people, right? Like SMS. Is it going to make sense?
I don't know if SMS is going to make sense right now
Yeah,
or because of the coronavirus, but I think SMS marketing in general um, might make sense. And again, it depends on the type of industry that you're in and which countries you're targeting. Because there are like worldwide SMS marketing solutions, but usually
yeah,
it's very expensive in certain countries and less
sure.
expensive in others. Um, and I don't think I've seen one service that offers the entire world, or at least not on a startup level. Maybe on a corporate level, it's a different story, and you can get much better rates if you're buying en masse if you're a large brand.
Yeah,
Um, but I think in general it does make sense. Doing SMS marketing, integrating that into your marketing does make a lot of sense, especially if you're focusing on one or two countries to start with. Like the United States is a really good one because there's a lot of providers out there that offer really cheap pricing per SMS that you send out, and because SMS marketing just has a much higher open rate. If you're doing anything with a mobile and you're really focusing on one or two countries, you can limit where you try and do SMS marketing, right? So if US is
sure.
one of your main countries, you can try and only get SMS numbers from customers in the US um, because it just has a much higher open rate than email, like by far. I think it's over 90% open rate and like
But
20%
also
click rates.
the
It's
thing what you're
crazy.
saying, it's true that the open rate's high, but I think it's also sometimes because like for example me, when I look at my phone, right? If I see that there's an SMS there, I just click on it and then leave it. Like I don't even sometimes read them, right? Like I get in this country, Dominican Republic, we get Uber a lot, and then you get your bank. Like
Yeah.
that's the two that I get for SMS primarily.
Well, that just means not many people are using SMS marketing. The other side of the
Yeah, no,
coin is that there's a lot of regulation on SMS, so you have to be super
exactly.
kosher with it. You can't be spamming it. You like it should only be used for like important messages slash maybe good promotions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
quote unquote important messages. Um, my point is just don't send like 5 SMSs a day. If you like for every new
Exactly.
offer you have or whatever, maybe send one every day of like a list of the offers that you have as an example.
Is there
or maybe once every 2 or 3 days, something along those lines. If you were to have a sequence, or really if you have some important news to share or something along those lines, maybe you can send out an SMS blast.
is there
Yeah,
a
I don't
way
like
to
that word.
do retargeting on SMS?
Not really. Retargeting is more like Facebook, Google, and honestly, a lot of other platforms are starting to offer retargeting. But
Yeah,
retargeting is a different beast completely. But what I like about retargeting is that it allows you to build a brand or brand awareness without spending so much money on brand advertising. Because what it allows you to do, um, it allows you to basically, it can increase your revenue by 30% or more if
yeah.
used properly, because it allows you to build a connection with the consumer, or with your target customer.
And you're saying
Much
revenues on your ad spend or
Yes.
revenues of the whole company? Because that'd be
Well, I mean,
up to you.
the way and like most companies that I work with only have digital marketing in terms of
Yeah,
um, but so yeah, it's ROAS, return on ad spend. Yeah, it's not
yeah.
usually ROI on the whole company. Um, but yeah,
No, just to be clear, in
usually,
case someone's listening,
yeah,
just so they're like,
yeah,
"Hey
yeah. No,
guys, I
no, it
heard
makes
that if we
sense.
do a retargeting campaign, we're gonna increase our revenues
And
by
that's the
thirty
thing.
percent, and
And
then
that's the
we
thing.
get Billy fired."
And that's the thing. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to throw up a retargeting ad that's going to run for 7 days and says, hey, come back now,
Yeah,
and expect it to, explode your revenue. That's not how that works. You need to have like a strategy behind it. And it's usually like maybe on day one, you show them an ad about, how Billy used your product and is now the happiest customer on earth. And day two, how, I don't know, Jose is the second happiest customer ever, and
yeah,
he's now fulfilled his life dream or whatever. And day number three is maybe talking about some sort of objection. But what it does is people need to usually see your brand 7 times to trust you. And what retargeting does is it allows you to do that without having to, let's say your target market is 1 million people.
yeah,
Instead of spending, let's say it costs, I don't know, $7,000 to reach those. So to do that 7 times, it would be $49,000, just as an example. I don't know why I took those numbers, whatever. But on the other hand, if you only reach those, let's say 100,000 people, but then show them ads over and over again with retargeting, because it's usually much cheaper to show them the ad, it can be much, 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 much cheaper to basically grow an actual target audience of 100,000 customers,
yeah.
because you
To
can
grow your fan
show your
base.
ad to those people over and over and over again after they've already interacted with you. They've shown you interest,
Yeah.
right? So you can show them multiple ads over the course of multiple days using retargeting, and allows you to build brand awareness and build a connection with people um, with your brand much, much cheaper than trying to do brand advertisement, because brand advertising is usually much more expensive.
So, what would be some, apart from what you said, like 2 or 3 takeaways with retargeting for someone that's for companies that are looking to
You
consider
should
it or that are doing it?
you should almost always have it running. Try to do it omni-channel. There are platforms that make it easier for you if you don't have a team to manage it, like AdRoll. Just Google it. Perfect Audience is another one, and it gives you, like, it's usually with an increase in pricing. They usually mark it up. That's how they make their money. But it's the easiest way to set it up on, I believe, on Google, Facebook, and a few other networks. Alternatively, you can set it up yourself on Facebook, Google, and maybe even some native ad networks that allows you to basically follow people and have them see your ads across their mobile phone, desktop, maybe even TV, and basically every device that they're on.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. And the third one, what could be a third one? Um,
doesn't need to be.
I would allocate a large chunk of your budget, marketing budget, towards retargeting, because it's much easier to convert someone that has shown interest as opposed to spending money to show an ad to somebody to just a fresh new face. That's usually the
Yeah.
way it works. It's usually much cheaper to advertise to someone that has shown interest.
And
So
also, I think
allocate
it
a
goes
bigger
a little
chunk
bit
than you
further,
think.
that money, in the sense that even in person, right? You hear these companies that, this is just another example. Like, well, I guess I could keep it to marketing. But it's like, let's say you already have customers, right? And they're showing up to, like, let's say you do events. People like hesitate to give those customers, let's say, $10,000 free products like during that event, right? But they have no problem giving $10,000 of products to another event of where they have no customers at all. And
Yeah.
it's like, if
Or
you
to new
gave back to your
customers.
customers or to
Yeah.
people that are interested in your brand, like, that might go further than you just throwing your money at someone else that could give two shits,
Yeah. The
you
the
know?
retargeting
So
the retargeting that I've been talking about is also for people that have shown interest in your brand but aren't customers. You can also
no,
retarget
exactly. Yeah,
customers,
yeah.
right? That's like a whole nother thing. If they've already purchased from you, retargeting, customers and showing them a special offer for existing customers can
Yeah,
bring in a ton of revenue because it's people that have already bought from you and they
correct.
know your brand and they trust you. They've given you money already. You know, existing customers is always much easier to convert again as opposed to trying to get people that have just associated with your or have just learned
Yeah.
about your brand for sure 100%.
No, but that's the thing, is like, that's like an interesting, like, it's like a cognitive dissonance, I believe. Like, it's hard for people to grasp that concept, or like they just ignore the concept completely of like sort of reinvesting in your people, or in people that are somewhat interested in you. You know, we're always out there looking for the new, for the shiny objects, instead of maybe like realizing, oh, wait a minute, like, we already have this big community, or we already have people that are interested. Let's try to work on them first, instead of always trying to get new people, right?
Yeah.
So, and obviously this depends on your current, that's why everything depends on your situation. But it's just an interesting observation of like dealing with different companies, that sometimes they have no money to throw, they have no problem throwing money at something random, but then when it comes back to putting money back into their own people or into existing customers, they're like, oh no, wait, why would we do that? They're already customers. And I'm like, well, this is a way to bring them to the next level.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of companies don't seem to realize. Uh, Now that you say that, I've actually, just realized that as well. Is they always focusing on getting new customers, and if they would just, just turn around and be like, oh, we can just get
Build
way
up
more
on these
revenue,
guys.
much easier. It's low hanging fruit right there. We've just been ignoring it. Like,
Yeah.
just turn your face, look at the low hanging fruit, and be like, oh, here it is, and just pick it. Just
Yeah.
go turn to your existing customers, give them a special offer. Like a lot of companies don't do that, but it's an easy way to increase your revenue, especially just if you need a little bit of an extra boost for the end of the month or something.
And it's even a good marketing camp. It's a marketing campaign of its own, helping out your own people, because then
Yeah,
people will start raving about it. Like, oh my God, these
yeah,
guys are helping me
word of
out. They're
mouth
giving me this.
for
And
sure.
people are like, well, I want to be part of that. And then
Yeah,
they start getting on board, right? So
yeah,
you start getting that word of mouth marketing, which is the best type of marketing,
oh yeah,
that
for sure,
offline
referral.
stuff.
Yeah,
So it's just, it's an interesting thing, and it's a topic of its own, and it's definitely a battle, an uphill battle, to be sort of getting people to understand that concept, because they have a hard time. But then if you think about it, like, let's say whatever products you use, like let's say you use Apple products, and then Apple one day is like, yo, we see you've been like a customer for 7 years. Just pass by your nearest Apple shop and go pick yourself up a new iPhone. You're like, what? That was
all
awesome.
right.
you
Yeah,
know? So that's like one way to see it, right? Like, if you were that customer, imagine if you were a customer. I think that's the best way to think about marketing sometimes. It's like people like create these like situations that are like impossible situations, like, and they're like, why aren't we converting? Why aren't we this? And it's like, well, would you even fall for this? Would you even buy into this idea if it was you? And they're like, no. And then it's like, well, how do you expect that to work? Obviously, this is not a good example, because there's sometimes a lot of marketers that there's a lot of things that they advertise and they do that they would never do themselves,
yeah, it
but
still works
and it still works. But the point is like, that's one sort of filter you can apply
for sure.
if something's not working out. You could be like,
Yeah.
would you even do that? Does that sound like a good deal to you? what do you mean? We're giving them 10 cents off. You're like, yeah, but the thing costs $900,000. So does that make any sense? 10 cents, guys? You know?
Like
So
what is that in percentages? 0.0001?
exactly. This is a deal of the year. All right. Whatever you say,
Right.
buddy. But yeah, man. So it's gonna be interesting, you know, and I think that last part sort of with the retargeting and also like the marketing approaches now that companies can sort of consider are going to be good. Like the tourism market, I don't know how they could spin this off because people are in the fear mode, but for sure people that are selling entertainment or something that doesn't require you to go somewhere outside has a potential, right? So like delivery, but even deliveries to your door could be dangerous, right? Like you're gonna have to think of, like, people might not be into that anymore. Who knows if that market gets affected at all, like the logistical side.
I think the logistics will, especially if there's a lockdown you're not supposed to. I'm not sure. There might be like, you know,
Because they sneeze on the box, you get the box, and how do you know?
yeah, I get that. But I mean, I don't know how relevant that is. But I've thought about that as well. I'm not sure how the governments would handle that in a lockdown. Like, do logistics continue? Do they
Yeah.
still continue deliveries? Like, how do they do that? Do they have to disinfect themselves? Like, do they have to
And
get tested before
the fact
delivery?
that you
Like,
said it's irrelevant is also the reason
is
why
it even relevant?
is it even relevant? Is that's why I think everyone in the end will get infected because
Yeah,
everyone's focusing on certain things. And I'm like, what about this? What about this? What about this? These are all small things, but this is another way to reach people that are trying to be self quarantining themselves, or you know whatever I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, yeah,
eventually, everyone is going to get infected because they're focusing, let's say, on like, don't go to the gym, don't go on this, but then they're like, but go here and go there, and you're like, well, you're still dealing with people, or you're still in some sort of contact, or whatever it is, you
yeah,
know. So in the end, you have one guy who thinks he doesn't have it, and he's in that area, and the next thing you know, everyone has it that is there, and then they give it to their families and their family, and then it'll just keep spreading, like multiplying.
yeah,
So it's like, how far do you go? Do you stop the logistics? Like, people can't stay in their houses, they don't have all the food supplies, like what you're saying, you got to go soon because you got to go get some supplies. But it's like, do families
Well,
have
we
supplies
just we just
forever?
came we just came back from like a 9-day holiday, so we have nothing in the fridge. We need to go shopping just because we need to go shopping. But
And why don't you use
there
an
are people
online
that are
service?
hoarding. There are people that are hoarding, but that's the thing. Even in Italy, where there is a complete lockdown, restaurants are still open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. because people still have to eat. You know, people still have to go to the bathroom, so on and so forth. I mean, bathroom is a bad example, but maybe they have to buy toilet paper for going to the bathroom, is my point. So, like, businesses are still allowed to be open as long as they can guarantee like a certain distance between people, and so on and so forth. There have to be certain
Hey guys,
requirements,
come
but
get your
things
plates,
like
your
the
food's
cinema
over
are
here.
shut down.
The waiter can't even give
Basically,
them the
I
food.
mean, I think in Italy it's they have to guarantee you a meter distance. So I think like certain supermarkets will still be open, so on and so forth. My
Yeah,
concern is just people panicking, and that causing more chaos
more
than is
chaos than
necessary.
needed, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the whole thing. It's going to
That
be interesting times.
yeah, for sure, for sure. But people are I think are acting irrationally. Like that's just what I'm hearing, right? I haven't personally seen it. I see people acting normal and stuff. So I think most people are just like unconcerned, at least here in Germany. Because I think most of the media is here in Germany is based on facts, not all of it, obviously, but I
Yeah, a
think
lot of it.
it's more it's less sensational than the United States, for example, because in the U.S. they're like
Yeah.
pandemic, run crazy, from my understanding, from what I've seen. But yeah, let's see.
You just don't want to walk somewhere and go like, look around. You're just like,
If I see somebody coughing in the supermarket, I will take a few steps back. It's two
yeah,
meter distance. That's apparently what it is. It's not just one. It's apparently 2 meters.
run.
But like it is, just keep your no, no need to run. Just keep 2 meters distance. Wash your hands. You'll be fine. Like,
Yeah,
and
and
if you
don't
get
touch your
it,
face like this all the time, and your nose, and
yeah, yeah. Don't touch your face with your hands all the time,
yeah. Well, that's so
especially when
good.
you're out and about.
Well, if the ocean's affected, then we're done because I was in the ocean today. So
No, I don't think it survives in the ocean
yeah,
like
no,
that.
it's gonna be. That's the thing, and that's why, like from the marketing standpoint, there's gonna have to be some people that are gonna have to take a step back from their marketing efforts, and there are people that are
Yeah,
gonna have to put pedal to the metal, because I think for like what you're saying, the gaming side, the entertainment side, there's a lot of opportunities out there for these companies, especially if they're creative enough,
yeah,
right? Like they're going to be able to put a spin on this and really capitalize on what's happening. Now, industries like in the tourism side, uh, I don't know, no matter how good your campaign is, if you own a hotel, you can't control the flights, you can't control the cruise ships, you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
control certain things. So it might almost be better to be like, really figure out, maybe there's a specific niche you can hit, like specific countries that are still not in quarantine, that are still allowing travel and this and that. You can maybe get those clients to come down. But other than that, if you're focusing, let's say you're an American establishment that's focusing on Europeans coming down, the next 30 days you're done, right? There's no flights coming in after
yeah.
Friday. So it's really going to have to be like, you're going to have to assess the whole playing field. And now it's not only national, now we're globalized, right? So now you really got to look and know
Yeah.
what's happening globally to sort of make a good effort forward. Even us, we're taking measures now on how we're going to be surviving this next 6 months to 12 months, because it's going to be very, very interesting, and interesting. I like the word interesting and juicy, but it's gonna be very like tough. It's gonna be complicated. It's not gonna be easy,
Um,
but it's just a ride.
I agree. On the other hand, if you're trying to build some sort of brand, I think it's going to be cheaper over the next few months because a lot of brands will be pulling out of marketing. Because if
Exactly.
it really impacts so many industries, then people will stop advertising. They will stop spending money, or they will reduce their spending on marketing,
Yeah.
most likely. Again, this is just a guess, right? Who knows? The future can't be predicted. But I think if you're trying to build a brand, hint, hint, then it is actually a good time to start advertising
And
because everything's going to be cheaper.
that's what I said, is that it really depends on where you're at, right?
Yeah.
So in that situation, yeah. What is it? What's the Warren Buffett quote? When there's blood in the streets, start buying. I don't know what I really
I'm
butchered
not. I'm
that
not.
one.
I'm not. I think I know the
It's
quote you're talking
something.
about, but
Yeah, it's something with when there's blood in the streets with the stock market, right?
yeah, buy. But that's what I was saying at the beginning of the call. If you have money to invest, take a piece of it and invest it into whatever it is that you were thinking of investing in, that you researched, that you did your own research on, be it the crypto market, be it the stock market, be it whatever else is down.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the travel industry because I think that's going to be impacted a bit longer. But outside of that, maybe quite a few should be bouncing back. Um, and since there's been such a drop, you should be making some pretty decent profits if you look at it in the long term. Not if you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna buy now and in 2 months I'll have my money back or double my money. No, no. Think long term, like year to 2, 3 years
And
at
the quote
least.
is,
At
it's from
least.
Baron Rothschild. The time to
Yeah,
buy is when there's blood in the streets.
yeah.
Though, with that being said, I also would caution people that are not familiar with like the cryptocurrency
Oh, of
world
course,
or the stock
of
world
course.
to invest in that,
That's
right?
what I'm saying. If
Because
you've thought about things and done your
exactly,
research on them, then
exactly,
and you feel comfortable doing it, then do it.
yeah,
Don't just do it because everything's on sale. I'm gonna buy. I'm gonna put my entire life saving in now. Don't do that.
yeah,
I said if you have money to invest, take a piece of that money and invest it into something you have
consciously,
researched and thought about investing in.
exactly. And that's the
filter
that's
it
the
through
whole
that
thing.
filter it through that and if all of those criteria meet, then think about investing. Don't take my advice. This is not financial advice. Do your own research.
It's unofficial, official financial advice, guys.
No,
But
no,
that's
no,
the
like
But that's the thing, is that a lot
apparently,
of people too, I think that's why like a lot of people are going to get screwed in these next coming months, because people are going to be taking advantage of them, right? Like people that are into eToro, or people that are into all types of things where like you sort of get commissions on people, affiliated marketing,
yeah,
like all these types of things. They're going to try to get people to buy into these things. Hey guys, you know, they're going to use those quotes. The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets and people are like, all right,
yeah,
everyone's in
yeah,
panic. And then they're going to get screwed,
yeah.
right? And then the only guys that are going to win are the guys that get commissions on them, and et cetera, et
With
cetera.
there are do your research.
Yeah,
Check what exchanges you should buy from, which ones are dodgy, which ones you shouldn't go through. If
yeah,
it's usually a site telling you can make $1 million tomorrow, don't sign up.
yeah. And
Be
if there's a
reasonable.
site that's telling you you can make $1 million in a year, still maybe don't sign up, because they might be trying to, they might play the reverse
Even
on you
then,
right there.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just like, I think it's a time of like survival mode, you know, like this next 6 months or 12 months is a survival mode for some businesses. And then for other
Yeah,
businesses, it's a bit more on the offense, but still being cautious, because
of course.
you never know what can happen, right? So
Yeah,
it's better to have cash on your side than to have no cash at all. So it's
yeah.
like you sort of want to be still, you really gotta see what you're doing, right? You can't just make moves out of nothing, because we're still in the beginning stages of this. So
Oh
we
yeah,
don't
for
know to
sure.
what
It's the
extent
very
things are going
beginning.
to happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just like, and right now we see, major countries like United States and Europe taking measures, but you're going to start seeing it. It's going to be, everyone's going to get affected.
Oh, for sure.
So it's just to see what exactly is going to happen and how far it's going to go. I imagine there's going to have to be a point where there's going to be a line, because if it goes to that extent where you stop logistics, then the whole world's going to like really slow down.
For
And
sure,
winter's
for
coming,
sure.
right? So countries that don't produce themselves certain things, they need to keep importing. They cannot stop importing just for one day, because then they're going to run out of whatever they're going to run out of, right?
Yeah,
And then it gets even worse. So that's why it's going to be interesting. But
yeah. Let's
we'll
see.
leave it at that. We'll leave it at
Yeah,
that. We see
yeah.
what happens. And for
Def-
now, I think the bottom line is that always be testing, keep your eyes peeled, and for some, try to go in survival mode, and for others, maybe go on the offense if it works out for you. But
Pedal to the metal. No.
pedal to the metal
Cautiously, cautiously.
cautiously.
Always analyze and move forward deliberately.
And also, taking a standstill sometimes is in a way moving forward, because you don't want to take action and then completely get destroyed,
Yeah, of course.
right? Because it's a marathon. So sometimes you got to walk. You can't just like always be running. So sometimes you got to walk, you got to pace. Maybe you should even like be like, hey, should I cross that bridge right now? Because it looks a little bit iffy, right? So there's that two sides, and that's why you're going to see a lot of people maybe make it, and you're going to see a lot of people crash and burn. And that's, hopefully you're not on the crash and burn side. Hopefully you're on
Yeah,
the like
for sure.
surviving and making it happen. But we'll leave it at that. Um, we'll keep in touch for sure. This is what
Yeah,
was this, call number
7. Talk number 7,
7,
I think.
lucky number
Yeah.
7. So we're gonna get to it. We're gonna continue this, and we're gonna keep pushing forward, seeing what is gonna happen in the market and how we're able to continue bringing value in these times. But it's gonna be
Well,
it's gonna be interesting.
we're working virtually, so we're doing what everyone says we should be doing. So it's all good.
Yeah, stay home, stay
Stay
inside.
home. All right, man.
Yeah,
Talk to you later.
David, pleasure. Have a good day,
You
and
too, man.
we keep in touch.
Yep.
Peace out.
Peace.